Hello, everybody. This is Brandon Pepler. For those of you who are coming in, this is part 3 of our Harry Potter audio commentary marathon. For those of you who don't know me, I am doing up audio commentaries for the first time. I started out earlier in July for the 3rd anniversary of Akira. But for this instance, I will be doing up the Harry Potter films in chronological order. Not just that, but it's also the 20th anniversary of the first book's release and the 38th birthday of our beloved boy who lived, Harry James Potter himself. That's right, folks, he is 38, that's right. So, we will be doing up the commentary for the third film, The Prisoner of Azkaban. This commentary will, of course, give some insight to my background, to the exposure of the third installment, plus any additional trivia. And with that, those of you who are getting ready, I only am doing an audio commentary. I won't be having any background audio, and with that, I want to avoid any copyright problems, because given how YouTube is, they wouldn't have anything to do with actual video incorporated, unless if it's like edited, or but I would think that's probably best to have it set as the audio track itself. So for those of you who want to be listening in, you are welcome to have either a streamed version or a physical copy like a DVD or a Blu-ray, and you can listen into my dialogue, or monologue, sorry. But yeah, so get your treats, get your drinks, go do your thing in the washroom, and then we'll start as soon as you unpause. So pause right now, folks. Everyone prepped? Yes? Good? And on we go. On the count of 3, we will be playing the movie, and I will let you know in case you guys are off in sync, okay? So, 1, 2, 3, and play. This was also another movie I saw in theaters back when the films were pretty much kicking off, and this was one instance where I actually saw the film very late in, and it was actually where Aunt Marge was introduced. Zooming right between the W and the B. Now, this may come across as nitpicking, but you would think that Harry would of course be caught in the act with doing magic outside of school, which he would, given that he was learning the Lumos Maximus spell. But you would think he'd be a lot more smarter than that, given that he wants to actually stay being taught as a wizard. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the books, so Harry is supposed to actually be doing homework outside of school, given the instance that he is studying in preparation for his 3rd year. So in the instance of him actually studying, he is utilizing whatever books he managed to smuggle out of his trunk, and then have it put into his room, Dudley's second room, and then study from there, using his quill and ink for any note-taking, and then a flashlight so that way he can actually read what he's doing. Pretty much candlelight homework, given that he can't be doing anything in the eyes of his other family, the Dursleys. Now, so in this instance, another thing I want to point out is now for those of you who may have heard my last commentary, I pointed out there are some major differences, and I'm pretty sure most of you probably figured out by now, but a lot of this info I picked up was derived from the YouTuber, the Dom, who I look upon as like one of my major big helps for getting this kind of information. Such as the instance for where, in this moment, where Aunt Marge is introduced. Now, around this point, it would have been already a week since Marge was there, and Harry and Vernon would have already tried to make a deal for where Harry would behave in order to get his permission slip to Hogsmeade signed. And pretty much at this point, this is where Harry is struggling, try to get a hold on himself, because he really wants to go to Hogsmeade. And that he really has no other guardians to sign that form for him. Now, I just heard recently that Aunt Marge was supposed to be based off of J.K. Rowling's own aunt, and you'd really think that, oh my, that's gotta be one horrible relative to actually have her around, even in a household. I mean, that's just gotta be awful having a relative that's just so bad-tempered, so controlling. I mean, who would actually be living like that and be able to just keep yourself sane in that kind of manner? Da, 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 da. Always comes wrong when it comes to dessert. Always. Yep. Blowing up like a balloon, but not turning blue like a blueberry. Well, oh, that's double references there. Yeah, so... bloat, bloat, bloat on! Bloat on, bloat on! Bloop. It's blubber! Let her go, let her go, let her go, let her go, let her go. Oh. Don't you dare, sorry. Oh, isn't that just remarkable? Oh, go on worry, 'cause she will float on, alright. And Dudley's just so oblivious. And so many TVs all at once. It just comes to show that whenever Dudley gets what he wants, spoiled brat. Well, it just comes to show that, yeah, I mean, even Harry's, she's still floating on. Oh, yeah. They all float. But, like with the books, Prisoner of Azkaban was pretty much one of the first four that I got, and, well, I had Philosopher's Stone, well, Sorcerer's Stone in the US, but then Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, and Goblet of Fire. So, with that, I was very much into the Harry Potter hype, and around that time, still being into the series, I still found it amazing just how the idea of how fantasy and reality could just merge in the aspect of how the wizarding world works. Didn't no, I didn't have a lot in terms of merch while I was growing up, but so in the instance of Harry Potter around this time, I was kind of drifting off in other areas, and in terms of this, I was just kind of one. I don't know. It's been a while. I mean, I only played the first game, and then I recently had seen a playthrough of the third one, and it kind of follows the mechanics of the first and second games, but with new additions. I mean, like for instance, they brought back the aesthetic of the characters wearing their Hogwarts uniforms, as opposed to just their cloaks and wearing casual clothing. And I think that I think most of the major things in the games that really were successful were the idea of collecting and then finding unlockables. But as soon as the later games came out, the quality just kind of diminished. So the night bus. I had a bit of a kick out of this when I first watched it. I just found it insane hilarious, just the idea of a triple decker bus just zooming through the English streets. I bet out of HE double hockey stick. I mean, I was surprised they incorporated the shrunken head. I thought I was going to get like the red flag for like a racial stereotype, but it kind of just spices up the humor a little bit. Just the smart words that just spilling out. Oh no. Having to wait for the old lady having to pass across the sidewalk. 2 1 3 Cortez. Oh my goodness. Escape from Azkaban. Well, but and that's another thing that kind of omitted the concept that Sirius Black was supposed to be a wanted fugitive, not only in just the wizarding world, but also on the Muggle spectrum. So he was pretty much on the run on both sides, as opposed to just being on the magical end. Ooh! Wow! slow motion. And wow. Suddenly we feel a little more thinner. Ripple effect. Lovely. Long face is good. And bing! We're back. Again. Uh-oh. And that, I believe, is supposed to be Tom, the innkeeper, for the Leaky Cauldron. Well, surprisingly, he looked extremely different than what he was in the Philosopher's Stone. Even the Leaky Cauldron itself looks completely different. Punctured and squeezed. Well, man, talk about convenience. Already prepared to head off to school. I mean, you would think that Harry would at least have time to at least be in Diagon Alley wandering. And one plus taking up temporary residency up at the Leaky Cauldron. Just right up until school started. Oh, that's right, the Monster Book of Monsters. From what I remember, it was supposed to be a birthday gift from Hagrid. And that in the case of that, the situation unfolding was supposed to be taking place back at the Dursleys. It's been a while since actually reading the book or having recently listened to the audiobook for it. And just seeing the book scurry around like that, it's like, wow. I mean, I'm surprised that the train was just be close by to the Leaky Cauldron. And talk about, I mean, it would be almost being like, whoa. Could you be a little more pleasant when you say that the room isn't ready? Oh. I mean, I swear, the way Crookshanks looks, my cat Ziggy looks a lot more nicer. I mean, the poor cat looks like it's got its face smashed, and oh. But yeah, so just the idea of the principal idea of Crookshanks was that the little guy is supposed to be half Kneasel or Kneasel. I'm I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I know it's a species of cat associated with the Wizarding World. And that was another thing that didn't quite settle with me. Just the idea of how, why would Sirius Black support Voldemort in terms of everything that went on? Especially given that, how would he support Voldemort? If just the whole concept just didn't seem right to me. Even after having reread the Philosopher's Stone. Like, the whole idea of Hagrid borrowing Sirius's motorcycle, and all of a sudden, 13 years later, he escaped from Azkaban, but you would think that he would be a family friend, and how would he betray his own friends? But then again, having been exposed to it for the first time, I don't know, it's kind of curious, at least to me. On a dark, murky evening in Scotland, on the way to the Highlands. So when I first saw the playthrough or walkthrough for the game of this, I couldn't help but just see what our trio would be doing. The mechanics of the game is that you finally manage to be all three of the characters, Harry, Ron, and Hermione. And you can even switch them out depending on what their abilities would be. And in this instance, with the train, from what I remember, it seemed like they were trying to kind of settle the disturbance that were going on in the train. But of course, they were kind of pretty much cornered off by the Dementors. When I first saw the Dementors, or at least having heard of them through the book, I was just, I saw him like physical representations of Grim Reapers and such. We have Remus Lupin, played by David Thewlis. He's gotten quite an impressive filmography himself. He was in a number of films. Like from the look of his resume, he has been in Braveheart, Big Lebowski. Second Basic Instinct? What? That's just outrageous. Red 2. He's going to be tied into a couple of the Avatar films. That's James Cameron's Avatar. Kingdom of Heaven. Oh, he was even the Earthworm in James and the Giant Peach? Well, 7 Years in Tibet. John Williams, transforming classic fairy tales and carols. And this was the when I saw Warwick Davis having turned into a younger version of Professor Flitwick. It was just, this is curious. Just how Flitwick looked younger. Michael Gambon. So Michael Gambon, I'm quite familiar with some of his work. I remember that back in the 90s, I was first exposed to a Robin Williams film called Toys, and that Michael Gambon, he portrayed as the uncle that ultimately takes over the toy factory in the film. So, yeah, I remember him being as the general in that, and he was also Boltus Van Tassel in Tim Burton's interpretation of Sleepy Hollow, which also included Johnny Depp. I mean, what's with Johnny Depp? And he's also been in a number of films, like, of course, Wes Anderson's Fantastic Mr. Fox. He was also King George in King George IV in The King's Speech. Life Aquatic. I mean, this is a very inspiring quote. It would make a lot of sense, especially given the circumstances of the Dementors. But then again, it's kind of more foreshadowing. Foreshadowing, sorry. Eee. I mean, I wonder what those sweets there are when. I mean, just the idea of them making those animal noises. So, I think around this time, like, with how Matthew Lewis being Neville, he was. I mean, you can actually see the physical change in him. Like, later in the films, he becomes like, I don't know, just the way he evolved. It's quite remarkable, and I didn't see why they needed to use like the fat suit on him. I mean, because the whole point was to get have Neville to be sort of like the the outcast character. There was an extended scene of the bird, and from what I saw, it just kind of flutters around and just like in between to where it flew down the path and ended up getting smacked into the Whomping Willow. It kind of just pestered Hagrid for a few seconds. Professor Trelawney, played by Emma Thompson, who herself is also an incredible actress in many merits. So she has been in a number of works, like she was in Junior with Arnold Schwarzenegger. She collaborated with Kenneth Branagh in Henry V, with him as the director. She was in the third Men in Black as Agent O. And it kind of seems like she's in the new Men in Black also. She was also in the Disney film Brave as Queen Eleanor. Treasure Planet. At first, when I read up on the whole Grimm situation as a boy, having been first exposed, I thought the Grimm was the skull. Clearly Hermione does not believe in the concept of divination. Well, in such an instance, it's possible. I mean, it kind of ties in with the aspect of, like, well, I mean, the whole idea of divination, I mentioned in my Akira commentary that I believe that it could be possible to use such aspects of ESP and how something like that could be incorporated through the Wizarding Worlds too, especially being as a seer. But so Professor Kettleburn was you never quite see him, but he was I never even had managed to actually see him in the films or read him in the books, but he finally got a sort of there was an actual appearance of him in the Hogwarts Mystery Games, and of course, having in that he lost an eye, his left eye, he lost his left arm, and he lost his right leg as a result of his experience as a teacher for care of magical creatures. But so in essence, in the game, he pretty much has you being taught at least like a number of creatures. Like for instance, I'm nearly halfway into the game, and he already has your character being introduced to the Bowtruckle, which is kind of this the walking stick creature that was introduced on film in the first Fantastic Beasts, and of course the Niffler, and the fire crab. The fire crab, the fire crab creature itself was also kind of had appearances in the video games. But I would think that out of all the interpretations of the fire crab, I think the Hogwarts mystery interpretation made the fire crab a lot more cuter. Ooh. Romantic. I mean, when I saw Hermione's and Ron's hands being held, I was going like, okay, there's something bound to happen. I mean, I was very impressed with how Buckbeak turned out in this film. And that in the game, there was like, I mean, like with the the flying sequences in the earlier games, you're actually trained to go through hoops. But in the instance with the Buckbeak, it's all about precisely getting through each of those hoops and gain more and more of the famous witches and wizards cards as rewards. Now, I know what you may be thinking, but I think in terms of Harry being impressed with how he's actually flying on a living animal, I think it's a very new experience as opposed to flying on a broom. I mean, having been the Gryffindor Seeker for at least 2 years now, I mean, flying on a hippogriff is completely different. I mean, that's my theory in any case. But I mean, you're all welcome to share your thoughts on that if you want. But I mean, after all, new experiences can change a point of view. Serves you right. God, honestly, Malfoy. God, always has to be the whiny little baby. Aww. Buckbeak has become quite affectionate to Harry. And that is supposed to be the headless hunt. But guy, it would have been great to lose an arm. Would have taught you a lesson. But so, since Chamber of Secrets, it's been said that Lucius has been fired from his position as one of the Hogwarts governors. From the look of how serious is in that photo, it looked like he was screaming rather than laughing. Well, that's the thing with photographs. Even when they're moving, you can't really tell if they are either making like in the instance of crying or laughing or screaming. Ah. The Boggart. Also another feature incorporated into the Hogwarts mystery game. So I believe that's around the third year it happened, and as your character gets involved into at least several of them over the course of the year. So it turns out that the fear that the character would have is, of course, Voldemort himself. Hence, the Boggarts become Voldemort. And that it turns out that the encouragement to have the character to have at least laugh off the Boggart that becomes Voldemort was having Voldemort appear in clown clothing. I mean, which in essence it could be very funny. I mean, just the idea of the Dark Lord having such colorful, frilly, bright colors for costume, and just behaving like a fool clown. And there's Professor Snape dressed in drag. I wonder how Alan Rickman handled that, being in drag well, as Snape. I'm pretty sure he had a pretty good laugh out of it. But then again, given the circumstances with Sirius seemingly being accused of hunting Harry, it would have been. It's likely that the wise idea would to stay put inside the school. At least that way he would be safe. So, I would think that, I mean, it's very, I mean, some of us tend to have more of emotional and mental fears as opposed to like physical fears, and I think it'd be very hard for, in my instance, I think that if a boggart was supposed to come across me, and I had like many mental or physical fears, sorry, mental or and emotional, I would think it would probably have to take up a physical fear that kind of personifies. I mean, like for instance, probably the idea of well, my instance was, of course, vehophobia, the fear of driving, and with that, I mean, just the idea of being behind a wheel and the fear of speeding and the idea of collision. So, in many ways, I mean, a lot of it stemmed to when my father had an accident, and it stemmed from there. It's just I haven't been one to drive, and it's just from that experience alone, I just feel discouraged, even though I took a driving course back in high school. She's close. Yeah, you may be head boy, but with things going on, nothing's what they seem. Why is the fat lady on safari? Lockdown, we are on lockdown. Seal every door, secure every lock. The Dementors are surrounding the perimeter. So I don't know if any of you watch any behind the scenes stuff, but around this moment there was a bit of a prank that happened to go on. So in the instance where Rickman and Gambon were walking on this path in between where the sleeping students are positioned, there was a girl that was nearby Daniel, and that from what I heard, he seemed to like her quite a bit, and but there was the instance of where there was like a flatulence machine that was kind of rigged, and then the prank was turned on just from the machine going off, and it was positioned right near Daniel. The galaxy. Far, far away. Page 394. It's kind of like one of the signature quotes that some of us Potterheads would probably memorize right off the bat. Page 394. I was kind of impressed with how, but the very essence of how the Wizarding World incorporates some minor degree of technology. I mean, given that because of magic, there's no real need for too too sophisticated of technology. Uh, Gryffindor versus Hufflepuff. And I think around this time, I think Cedric Diggory was the Seeker. I was kind of competing against Harry at this point. It's been a while since actually reading the book, so okay, that was too comical. I mean, I was surprised how the snitch would actually be wandering this far out of the pitch. One would think it would probably stay within the confines of the pitch, but in the instance of this, I mean, it's way too far. And Harry's very far up into the skies. Falling! Falling! Mayday! Mayday! rotten luck. The Nimbus 2000, damaged beyond repair. One thing I started to notice in these films was how the characters started to wear more casual clothing, more and more, and very little in their uniforms, especially when they are on the, at least on the castle grounds and inside the halls. Christmas at Hogwarts again. Our favorite Weasley brothers, the twins. The Marauders. Pondering, pondering, pondering. It's just all of them in sync, those two in sync together. But the Honeydukes, Three Broomsticks, and Zonkos. I mean, Zonkos plays predominantly, especially in the instances where you help pick up jokes essential for some of the traps needed for furthering your investigation of the cursed vaults in Hogwarts mystery. I mean, such as the instance where, like, stink bombs and even the fanged frisbees. And that the Three Broomsticks, it's also featured as like oh, that's right. In the course of the game, you develop friendships with some of the characters. Like, of course, you end up encountering Bill and Charlie Weasley, and you become friends with them as their character. And you even encounter Tonks on the way too. and, but yeah, so in most instances where you can help increase the relationship level of your friends, you interact with them with a degree of activities like having meals with them in the Great Hall. You could even play gobstones in the courtyard, and there was even sharing drinks of butterbeer at the Three Broomsticks. Oh, Madame Rosemerta, yes. She's even incorporated as something of either. I think she was a side mission. It's been a while, but what happens is that you become selected to help. You have the option to help her out create a special extra sweet butterbeer for the Three Broomsticks. Shrunken heads. Dun dun dun! That's probably one of the most disturbing things anyone would have to endure. Just the idea of a murderer being associated as part of a family member. I mean, how could anyone live with that? Now, it comes to where, like, in this instance, Harry's facing the concept of vengeance for the first time, even going as far as wanting to kill Black in retaliation for the death of his own family, his own parents. Yeah, so the Patronus charm. Yeah, so I tried taking the Patronus charm quiz on Pottermore, and on the try I did, I ended up getting the Chow Dog. For those of you that may be unfamiliar of a Chow, it's basically a breed of dog that it looks pretty small but has like a lion's mane, and that it can be fiercely loyal to anybody it is attached to and very protective. I mean, even despite being a very small dog, not a particular dog you would probably want to kind of tangle with. I mean, not very. It wouldn't look very violent, but I mean, even a bark could be worse than a bite. I'm kind of curious of why there are vertebrae candles incorporated with the layout of the classroom. But I kind of thought it's kind of like it's the layout of how the dark arts classrooms would be kind of decorated. I don't know. The light! The light! That is something at least. I mean, even at least seeing their faces is enough for a happy memory. So I think there was a deleted scene just before this, and just right after after the lesson with the Patronus charm. But it was where Sirius broke into the Gryffindor common room, and well, it's from what happened is that Neville ended up having a list of different passwords, and over time, the passwords were constantly changing, given to how the castle was pretty much on high alert because of Black being nearby. But turned out that Neville lost the password list, and Sirius ended up breaking in. And so, with that, Peter Pettigrew. But if he was destroyed, then why is he walking? How could he still be alive? When I first came across this, it raised a lot of questions in my mind. Like, okay, he was killed, but then how? You couldn't be a ghost. Pettigrew's coming close, but just the way he is. How do you know? He's on to something. What could it be? Abnormal enlarged. No. Suspicious much? Oh, I mean, it's quite possible, given that Zonko could be probably, given that a lot of the the joke shop can also have a lot of novelty items to prank others. Amen. Something is turning in someone's head. Prying open my third eye. Prying open my third eye. Well, on top of her being a skeptic of divination, given the fact she is more logical and leans more towards facts as opposed to visions. Brilliant but scary. But, oh, that's right. I just remembered that, so in the instance of, one thing I forgot to mention about, back when, just while the fat lady was in hiding, the portrait was ultimately guarded by Sir Cadogan. But given the instance of having been just how he just was portrayed, seemed a bit more stuck up as opposed to being like a very chivalrous knight. Even going as far as being a bother to the portraits inside the Gryffindor common room. Especially after Sirius ended up breaking into the common room. And we are on the third act, where everything comes into play. Of course, Malfoy's getting kicked out. Oh! Well, surprisingly, that happened to be by accident. It was supposed to be a slap, but it turned out to be a punch. And boy, I think that worked a lot. That worked a whole lot better as opposed to a regular slap, because Malfoy, he definitely deserved a punch to the nose, being the bully that he is. Comforting. Well. How could it be night? It's like early evening, probably like pretty close to. I don't know. Then again, it looks pretty gloomy. Oh, there's some gigantic pumpkins. Holy moly. Yeah. This is getting very, very intense. But when I saw this, I was like, just heartbroken just seeing Buckbeak. I mean, even reading the book, I was going like, in that kind of situation, it happens every day. The innocent being condemned and having to suffer the punishment of the true guilty, the true wicked, the true evil. And that itself is the ultimate injustice in this world. The innocent suffering because of another's misdeed. Oh. willow. Oh, that's gonna leave a mark. Oh! Eek. I swear that has got to be insanely awful. Just getting whipped by its branches. Thwap, 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 thwap. Okay, that's just not possible. I mean, the moment he'd be grabbed, he'd be in the air, and I mean that was just like what just happened, and whoop, defying. The Shrieking Shack. It's just moments like these when you feel like something is very off. Gary Oldman. This. Indeed. Yeah, so I grew up with some of Gary's work. But so yeah, Gary Oldman. I'm quite familiar with some of his work. Like having known him in Sid and Nancy as Sid Vicious, Leon the Professional, Dr. Smith in Lost in Space. He was in a few stinkers, like of course Quest for Camelot. I've also seen him as Beethoven in Immortal Beloved. I mean, there was the other instance of using Expelliarmus as a bit of a pushback spell, but from the look of it, it's supposed to be like the knockback Jinx Flipendo. And there was supposed to be a revealing spell. Given the instance of Enemy Guy, I think, or Enemy Guy. Timothy Spall, another classic actor. I've also known him in some works, given the instance like he was in Quadrophenia with Phil Daniels. Quadrophenia was, of course, an iconic The Who album, given that it's like one of the earliest instances of a rock opera. He's also been in Chicken Run as Nick the Mouse, of which he again collaborated with Phil Daniels as Fletcher. He was also in Vanilla Sky, Rockstar, Last Samurai. Vanilla Sky and Last Samurai being a couple of Tom Cruise films. Oh, and he was also in Sweeney Todd. Well, the connections keep piling up and up and up and up and up. But, yeah, so Peter Pettigrew, his personality has been defined as kind of more towards cowardice, leaning to the company of others for personal advantages. But in the instance of Pettigrew, he had been friends with, of course, James, Sirius, and Ramus out of the need for self-preservation, and it's kind of like leaning towards the winning side. And that's kind of how he pretty much transitioned from being one of the Marauders into being one of Voldemort's prized assets. Don't be so sure. That is very true. God, Pettigrew. Such a sniffling little coward. Oh, anything but them. Oh no. No. Rotten. Once again, I'll say it again. Sniffling little coward, Pettigrew. That's gotta be painful and horrific all at once. Seeing Remus turn into the werewolf. And I often wondered what was the real cause of it. Like, what made him what he was. You can't reason with a werewolf. Dog eats dog. So, from what I heard, there was like a bit of history between the two. Like, there's such instance where Sirius and Remus would often venture together in their forms because, given the need of Remus having needed company when he's in werewolf form, the potion helping him stay in control. And that in the instance of Sirius being as the dog, it must be lonely being as a werewolf. And then, a lot of ways, there is also the prejudice against werewolves in the wizarding world. Like, from what I registered, that a lot of them really don't get much in terms of employment, and they're pretty much considered as outcasts because of the supposed disease that they have to bear. Even despite a lot of them being good people, fallen victim because of such instances of a malevolent werewolf. Do 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 right do right do 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 right do do. Dun, 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 dun. Da 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 dun, da 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 dun, dun. I will swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul. Oh, the Sanderson sisters would have been pleased. The stag. Run away! Run away! A brief moment of death. Knocked out. A lot of these fade-ins kind of, they kind of seem reminiscent towards how, like, a lot of the classical films were done. Like how, like, there's, like, the whole eye hole aspect of where, like, it, like, closes in and opens out. He's becoming delusional given the injury. Time travel. And that's kind of a curious thing when it comes to the aspect of time travel. It could be pretty much an overdone trope, such as the instance where, like, well, I've never had read the actual play or had seen the play for Cursed Child, but I would think that the aspect of time travel, I mean, I wouldn't think something like that would be necessary, and something like that would have been too overdone. But I think using time travel in this instance kind of like the need of necessity to set things right. So the clock's at 7:30. It's really after 10. But yeah, I've always been fascinated with the concept of time travel, be it just from like movies such as Donnie Darko and The Terminator, and of course Back to the Future. But in any of those instances, the very aspect of time travel being used for good intentions, or even with the use of mishandling time, it's just the idea of meddling with the past. It could be a very intense thing, especially with how fragile it could be. A paradox could affect so much, even from the smallest little thing. Anything could be very significant towards the progress of time. But the introduction of the time turner, that was a very interesting approach to the concept of time travel. Given that it could be done with magic as opposed to science. But then again, in many instances, science and magic can go hand in hand, depending on what would happen if both could be combined in some merit and work in conjunction. I'm very surprised that there wasn't such a thing as the unraveling of the space-time continuum, but I think more of the warning of the past selves encountering their present selves would likely alter the course of events, and of course have Buckbeak and Sirius end up getting killed, so they'd have to be constantly cautious, even though they had to relive certain events. But then there is the aspect of a temporal loop. I mean, such as the instance in this. Hermione having to get the past trio's attention, hence setting some of the events in motion, especially with the trio getting out of Hagrid's hut, and then of course departing back to the castle. This is so much like Back to the Future, how this is all laid out. I mean, then again, it's kind of a bit of a good nod to it in a way. Stop pecking! tried tempting him with bait. It kind of seemed like Dumbledore was intentionally trying to distract. He would know something is up. Oh, and what a waste. Had to at least cut something. I wonder what it'd be like if these moments were kind of done back to back, given the two different events happening at the same time. Yeah, that's probably something somebody should probably do, like a bit of a back-to-back comparison of the third act, and have, like, of course, the corresponding past and present selves being incorporated in. I mean, even if parts of it are just kind of settled in momentary flashes. Great survivors. Well, I would imagine Buckbeak has been pretty peckish. I mean, of course. Run! about that instead of a comparison? It could be possible for all the saints to kind of mesh together. I don't know. It could be an idea to consider on. Da-dum, 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 da-dum. Rick, Rick, Rick! Of course. Here they come. It's all on you, boy. And I would think that perhaps Harris Happy's memory would happen to be that Sirius was the only family he ever gotten that still was alive. And I think that's what helped him conjure the Stag Patronus. So... two lives spared. that was kind of a bit of another thing that kind of went on. For those of you that haven't really caught up on behind the scenes stuff, but Daniel had blue eyes instead of green, and he tried using contacts, but they didn't quite agree with him, and so his eyes were as is. Given that Harry was supposed to have green eyes. But you would think that even after all these years, CG would probably incorporate some kind of filtering to alter it. But I'm pretty sure that if someone did like a fan edit and kind of spruced up the footage to incorporate that, I mean, who really knows? Could be possible. I mean, fan edits are possible. And a lot of them could be vastly superior to the original film counterparts that were done professionally. Deja vu, much? I kind of wondered what the music was that Lupin had been playing, like when he was doing the Boggart class. There was a piece of music that sounded very familiar to me. I actually heard it once before, once I had seen the 1993 film The Crow, back when Ernie Hudson, who was Officer Albrecht, had a hot dog stand, and there was a familiar piece of music that was playing in the background when he was talking to the owner of the stand. One of the Marauders, no doubt. Mooney, no doubt. Yep. Oh, another major difference here. It'd be about midway into the story where Harry was introduced to the firebolt, but it would be confiscated and ultimately would have to be stripped and inspected until it was returned for use in Quidditch. It's also vastly faster compared to the Nimbus 2000, but very disturbing still frame. And that was it for part 3, folks. I'm very glad you listened to this when you could, and I will be looking forward to doing up the 4th one with you all very soon. So hopefully we will hear and see each other again, and in the meantime, mischief managed.